We are born of the blood, made men by the blood, undone by the blood. Our eyes are yet to open.
Bloodborne, a sort of spin-off title in the Souls series. Now, you can make some arguments that these games do connect, but for my sake, let's say they don't. Bloodborne, coming out March 24th, 2015, commissioned by PlayStation to make an exclusive FromSoft title, as they kind of realized, ooh, we messed up. And from this new partnership, something was born of the blood. Bloodborne, one of the best and people's favorite Souls game. It's definitely top 3 for me. This game does so much right that even when it does things I dislike, I'm like, you know, it's Bloodborne. I love this game. Taking place in this area called Yharnam, deserted because of this blood-sickened disease that has turned everybody into these abominations. These creatures undead, their teeth falling out, their skin raggedy. Oh wait, are we in Britain? In this game, you play as a hunter, tasked with cleansing this blood-sickened place. Our very first cutscene is getting roofied by this old man. I hope I consented to this. You awaken in Yharnam on the first floor sick room. Oh yeah, this game is already going to be different. The first thing I noticed off the bat is the messages and bloodstains are these little skeleton boys. And our first real challenge is this wolf creature that just does not give us a chance. All of the enemies are these deformed beasts. Like, yeah, we get this kind of stuff in Dark Souls typically, but not at this level. Everyone is just a monstrosity that shouldn't exist. Now, luckily, we're here. Of course, this wolf is supposed to kill us, as we only have our bare hands, but nah. I can take him. I could not take him. But that leads us to reawaken in the Hunter's Dream, where we can actually get my starting gear. I chose the axe as my first weapon. I like the range of the axe. And I found the saw later, but honestly, I just did not like the saw spear. Then, oh, my favorite part of this game, the gun. Oh yeah, this game is different. This combat is some of the most fun in any FromSoft game I've ever played. First off, every weapon is called a trick weapon, so technically there's 2 weapons you can switch between, with massive charge attacks and crazy combos you can use when you're switching between weapon styles. And of course, the best part, the gun. Now, later there are different guns like flamethrowers, multi-guns, literal cannons that you can hold on your left hand, but I stayed with the basic gun. And the best part about it, if you shoot an enemy just at the right time before they attack, you get a nice, clean stance break. This game's parry. Oh, and it just feels so good to pull that big iron on my hip out whenever someone's running towards me. Just cowboy style, quick draw them right in the face. And if you do parry them, you get a big visceral attack. Just put your hand right in their chest and shove it right out. Now, bigger beasts can't parry with the gun. I'm gonna try. Unfortunately, the game's devs understood how broken the gun could be, so they made bullets a limited resource. But almost every enemy drops them, and it's really hard to run out of bullets, as you can always just stab yourself and get more. That also brings me to the healing, which is also a limited item. I don't really like when they do this. It's not that big of a deal, as there is also another way to heal if you're quick enough. When you take damage, you can hit the enemies and recover health. And this is so cool because, again, it relates to the theme, Bloodborne. Everyone has been made by the blood, so of course when they bleed, it's the same blood that's healing you. They also can all be bought from this fountain in the Hunter's Dream. Now, with actual gear, we go back to Yharnam and explore deeper, meeting the basic enemy of a British person. One thing I really like about these enemies, other than the pairing, is they have live voice acting. They're screaming at you. Like, they think you're a beast. Little do they know. Another thing is, people you can have dialogue with, you typically don't see their face. Now, that could be because they didn't have enough time to make all these NPCs, but I feel like it adds to the world that most NPCs who aren't hunters are hiding. They're inside. They know not to go outside. It makes it feel so isolated. and it is quite a refresher when you find a friendly NPC. Well, of course, until you learn they're a bit of a psychopath. My exploration and cleansing left me to level up, and I found these lamps. They're like bonfires. But I really wish you didn't have to return to the Hunter's Dream every time you wanted to level up. I keep saying, Dark Souls 1 had it best. Also, you can't travel between different areas without returning to the Hunter's Dream. And if you gain insight, you can then go level up at this doll lady. First thing I noticed is this game does not have a lot of stats. Strength, Dex, Vitality, and Endurance. Those are the main returning ones. And then 2 new stats, Arcane and Blood Tinge. These 2 are helpful for your gun and something that comes later, but I really didn't upgrade these at all. It's kind of shocking how little stats there are to upgrade. Well, that just left me to explore, and these areas are very interconnecting. You could walk between every location. Again, everywhere is walking distance if you have the time. Thing I did see when exploring this whole game is that weapons and armor are very few and far between. Now, I think it's a bad and a good thing. Why I think it's a good thing is because all the armor in this game can be used equal. There's only a few items that are really worse than others. And same with weapons. All the weapons are equal. So whatever playstyle you want, you can play with. But it does kind of beat the exploration a little bit up because you're not finding a lot of new cool stuff. You're finding so many cool new areas, but new items, new gear, you're not finding a lot of those. But early on, I found the Hunter's Drip, which is this cool-ass Hunter's Cloak, and it's the same gear you see on the box, and it's really what I used for the whole game until I got the cowboy hat. Even for the majority of the game, I used the same weapon. I started with the axe, but as soon as I got the Kirk hammer, it was Unga Dunga from the way out. I was also able to just stick with the Kirk hammer. I didn't need to switch between any other weapon because the Kirk hammer just did its job. And on another path, I found my first boss, the Cleric Beast. I spent about 10 minutes trying to figure out how to parry him, and then gave up, and I was like, alright, he's just too big. A very fun first boss, very large, and a lot of detail. Also the phase change, which brings out more of his beast. But with a few Molotov cocktails and a lot of blood vials, I was able to beat my very first boss. This also leads to inflation. What do you mean the vials are more expensive? Now, it is a smart move to make things more pricey as the difficulty does go up, as all the blood just basically acts as souls. It gets a little annoying when you die to a boss and you have to grind for all the blood vials back up again, and you spend most of your time just grinding for blood vials. Now, there is a solution to that I did find later, but I'm not at that point. And even further down this swamp of shit, I find Father Gascoigne. I love this fight so much, because he is a hunter, but I can parry him. But also, the boss room isn't like a normal boss room. It shows that he is a hunter. Like, he's not just a boss, he is hunting you. You will run away, but he will chase you. And he then turns into a beast, the old blood consuming him, which makes this boss even better. The only thing I found weird was how I wasn't doing as much damage in his beast form. I'm like, you know, honest to me, like, just show how much damage I'm doing. But with him shot in the face, I can now move on. We then make it to Old Yarnum. There's a sign on the door, and it would be great if I knew how to read. And as we entered, we're told to turn back. That would also be great if I cared.
Turn back at once.
What are you gonna do about it? You're just some old man in a chair far away. Oh! So, Old Yarnum is basically bullet hell as I'm running through trying to make it a boss. Now, fortunately, I do eventually find a shortcut where I hop on some roofs a little bit, and this gets me all the way down to the blood-starved beast. Boss fight is, as it sounds, a blood-starved beast coming right at you from the get-go, slashing and attacking. Now, honestly, first phase is not that hard. phase 1.5, that's where it starts getting tricky. Of course, once I add poison to this boss. But if you got the right dodge timing, you got that. It's the final phase that gets me. Just standing near it induces poison, and it builds up so fast. And that grab, it gets me every single time. And at this point, man, I was completely lost. I had no idea where to go. Then I saw this item that said open the main gate. And after, no lie, maybe an hour of retracing my steps and going back to find people, I did eventually open the gate. But during this time, I did find this clinic lady who said send people to her so that she can help them. And I sent a few thinking, oh nice, there's some good people still around. And see, I forgot one crucial part of all Souls games. Everything ends in tragedy. Tracking to the gate, I do eventually get killed by some random bagman and I awaken somewhere. Now I saw, I have no chance here. And I leave after I see the damage. I do explore a little bit and I come face to face with Harl. I walk in this arena like maybe this is a boss arena, but you know, we'll see. And then this giant electrical dog just jumps down. I'm like, yep, I'm not ready for this. After I did open the gate, I did go back to the Hunter's Dream and I used the item, the Chalice Dungeon item, which allows me to do the major extra content of the game, the Chalice Dungeons. Imagine Bloodborne, but it's a maze with unused enemies, random level design, and it's completely optional, but it is fun nonetheless. It allows you to see more bosses, and if you really explore, no fan-made dungeons, which is how people have looked into the code, they've also found a lot of unused content, but by seeping into these challenge dungeons and making some weird combinations like the Cumfucks, yes, that's his name, which is the best blood farm in the game, are people finding unused bosses. Chalice Dungeons feels like FromSoft saying, hey, you want to see what we can do with too much free time? If you complete the Chalice Dungeon, it's like an extra 15 to 20 hours worth of content. Never-ending maze, and you just keep going deeper and deeper into the insanity, more and more, until you lose yourself. I made sure I did not stay long in there. I went back to the gate. I found a little side path at the cathedral, and after dealing with the high-rate knife crime and dirty teeth, I make it to the Witch of Himlik. And man, this boss is annoying. It's an optional boss. It just summons more enemies and runs away. There are a lot of bosses in Bloodborne like that, because me saying that, you've probably already thought of like 3 other bosses. These bosses aren't hard or fun, more like a chore. But with this defeat, this does allow us to equip blood runes that's a buff to our character. More vials or resistance to things. And stepping back, there was a boss I completely missed, and it was right in front of my face. Vicar Amelia, someone with the healing church who has become the beast he was so hell-bent on killing. And if you look in the lore and you see how everyone's tainting the people and abusing the world, trying to become something greater and tried in every way, but then just lost who they were. Their ideas consumed them, and then they reflect that consumption by becoming a beast. She's turned into like an all-white reindeer and sends these giant slashing attacks all over. This boss fight, I did start using my Wayne weapon of choice, the Kirk Hammer, a sword that can become a massive Ugga Dunga hammer. I just can't escape it. But she is easy. If you get behind her, you can get a good few clean hits off. The only issue is she has such a good design that the hairs are moving all over the place and you can't see anything. I got hit half the time just because I didn't see the move coming. He goes down and we get the adage of the game. To fear the old blood, born of blood, but do not understand the blood itself. And that brings me back to Paul. I'm coming for you. With these Kirk hammers, I break every bit of those limbs, and he goes down so easily. How do you like that, you Blanca wannabe? And now there's this door, and what's on the other side? I gotta continue this magnificent game. Wait, I've been here. Oh man, I'm lost again. This game is so easy to get lost in. I'm dead serious. I have no idea where to go. I'm like, Now, it's not as bad as Dark Souls 2, as exploring Bloodborne and trying to find any secrets is so much fun. Unlike that other game. Still, after an hour of just backtracking, I find this side door and I'm looking at myself like, it was so obvious. How did I not see this? It was right in front of me. That gets us to the Forbidden Forest. Just tons of nice, hospitable town folks. No issues here. Just ignore the abhorrent horrors in the swamp. Pay no mind to those. And that brought me right to the Shadow of Yharnam. An easy boss. If you space properly, kill the zoner first, then take out the katana guy. Very easy. Now, my mistake was I only did damage to the zoner. So phase 2, those two both started ranging me out, and it became pretty difficult. Not super difficult, but a little. With some right timing and some right zoning, I was properly able to finish this boss. Now, this is where the game begins to change in two ways. One, the enemies, and two, the land. You're very used to just blood-starved beasts who eat you alive. And then I start to see these abhorrent horrors. The world starts to be bigger. There's a difference, right? It's no longer just beasts and monsters. You're starting to see these outer gods. I would say exploration changes. Before, the game wasn't very linear. It was linear, but there was a lot of hidden paths and other things. I would say at this point on, there's not as many hidden paths. If you're just going straight earlier, you're gonna miss a lot. But now I feel like your progression is pretty straightforward. As I said, the horrors continue. In this next area, we get these little insight drainers, this resource. At first, I didn't really realize what it did. I thought it was just, oh, this thing I can use to buy more lightning papers. But it is actually such a cool mechanic in this game. It's your knowledge of the world. And the more insight you have, the more truth you can see of the world. Like, for example, the doll is lifeless unless you have one insight. And some enemies just don't appear if you don't have enough insight. Like, you're too stupid to see them. In this area, there is a man who gets killed, so I can't get the Lorn dump because of this pendejo. But I guess I just jump in the water and, oh, it's just a spider. I can handle that. Oh wait, this is a boss battle? Alright, bet. Is Rom, a spider boss whose main gimmick is not fighting us and sending more spiders to fight us. If you're not careful, these spiders will jump you, and later phases, it starts to rain ice and murder you as quick as you can. This boss killed me so many times, but it's so damn annoying. Like, please, can this just be over with? His massive health and how you have to run around him to hit him as his head is too strong to hit and doesn't do enough damage. It's one of the most tedious boss fights in the game. Not the most, we'll get to that guy later. This is one of my issues with this game. It's very minor though, but the bosses are just 50-50. Either so much fun and an incredible challenge, or these gank enemy fights with weird gimmick like Rom or the witches. I'm glad FromSoft learned from these, as it's hard to enjoy these bosses. Lore wise, I enjoy this boss entirely, because this completely changes the game. Killing Rom reveals the horrors of this world. With our insight, I begin to see how truly this world is. And this lady, who is she? What is happening? Everywhere I go, I hear this faint sound like a child crying. I just want to smash my elbow in its face. After Rom, we return back to Yharnam and the churches. The moon is filled with red. Blood creatures that shouldn't exist in places that I've already seen. People have changed and turned worse and worse, completely losing all their humanity. They no longer talk or yell, but just scream. This is the change of Bloodborne. You go from a hunter just doing his job to exploring the unfamiliar horrors of this world. These lesser gods known as Amidalas try to stop us. Bell ladies reviving fallen enemies. It's almost too much. This does lead us to the next boss, the One Reborn. A good reference to good old Tower Knight back in Demon Souls. Kill the lady shooting at you, the tower and then easily deal with this mushed together blob. I don't know, Kirkhammer was just too good at destroying this boss, man. Any beast-sized boss, the Kirkhammer just deals with easily. With one swing, I break all the bones in this body. A little teleport puts us in a brand new area with mini pearls, stone throwers, and this frenzy. I can't seem to shake it. It makes me go insane, and then all of my health is just gone. The area is quite big and very interconnected, but fortunately there's a lot of shortcuts that lead you back to different places, and that leads us to Mikolash. And oh man, this boss is very different. He just runs away. It's like a maze, and he keeps running, spouting this nonsense till he eventually stops and you can just pummel him to the ground. Now that's not bad, but it's phase 2 is where things get very annoying, as he's now starting to jump through these mirrors, teleport, and it's not that bad. It just feels like he's running at random places, and when he eventually stops finally, you can fight him like a boss. But he has two moves, these tendrils, which aren't hard at all to deal with, or this magic move that can insta-kill you, and now you have to begin this 10 to 20 minute process again.
Here, Shocker! You can't escape me! I'll chase you to the ends of the earth!
I have his voice lines memorized, it was that bad. Every time I went to the boss, all I could think was Mikolash when I catch you, Mikolash. My first few attempts, I didn't even beat this boss, and I just got so done with this fight, I left and went and did all the side content, like finding the Vile Bloods in Canehurst. This Castle Canehurst feels very much like a Dark Souls area, not a Bloodborne area, but it's a nice chance to explore this area and the boss. The most secret area is the boss is even a secret to find. To get to this area, you have to go to Isavska's clinic, which is another secret area, kill her. I had it coming, you realize what she was doing. And to get to the secret boss, you have to do some platforming in the castle, and you find Martyr Ligarius. I really enjoy this fight, because at first he just tries to zone you out with these skulls, and then he starts using his sight. Fortunately, he's one of the few bosses that you can shoot in the face and get an easy visceral attack. I love my gun. Now, I do need to be honest with my viewers real quick. Starting at this point, I did use the Cum Dungeon. Now, those who know Bloodborne are like, I see. And others are like, the hell is the Cum Dungeon? I talked about it earlier. Alice's custom-made dungeons could be made, and this one dungeon was made by fans and has an easy 80k farm. Now, I only used it for blood vials and bullets, so I didn't have to grind for hours. And then I went back to Mikolash, and thankfully after a few more times I finally got him. Ooh, it felt so good just to smash his head in. He starts to pick up a little bit. This next area has a ton of high level enemies, right? Like the Shadows of Yharnam come back as basic enemies. This child just gets louder and louder. And then we get to Murgo's Wet Nurse. Honestly, I'm not ready for this boss. I kept getting one-shotted by that one spin move. I think y'all know what I'm talking about. So that means back to Cathedral Ward. And you go up to the higher area of Cathedral Ward, and I love this area. It's the most horror-induced area out there. It's completely pitch black dark. There's the enemies who suck your insight, and you can't see them coming. And there's also my favorite, the wolves. Every second feels like you're just running for your life or trying to hide from anything. Nope, not doing that. The lat leads to the Celestial Emissary, a bunch of children who have been tested on and have become as close to elder gods as people could imagine. It's similar to Fool's Idol, where there's just a bunch of clones, and then the main one, of course, doesn't have a health bar above its head. I just don't like these gang fights, like I said earlier. And that brings us to Bloodiest. This boss was so easy. I think I was a bit over level and first tried it. This mac and cheese looking elder god was too easy. And oh, I have one more.
Oh, Amygdala. Oh, Amygdala. Have mercy on the poor boss.
Honestly, I'm worried for this Amygdala. This stone area with more frenzy and poison swamps. I was wondering where these were. And that brings us to Amygdala, but again, this fight is nothing with the Kirkhammer. all those bones breaking. Feels so good. And lastly, I think I was ready for Murgo's Wet Nurse. I leveled up a little bit, and I was able to learn the pattern so that one-shot move never got me, which led me to phase 2. It starts to bring out this smoke, and I wanted to chase and hit it so badly, but I realized that's not a good idea, and I should just be dodging and waiting it out. Oh, finally the noise can end! Now, I did hate the noise of the baby, but again, I love the lore. After Rom, the lady we saw was the mother of this baby, born of Celestial's need. This baby was born of blood and undone by the blood. Now, typically, this would be around the end, and I would go fight the final boss, as the hunter's dream is now on fire. But I kind of thought of this when I was doing all the other videos, as I've been getting a lot of comments of people asking me, hey, you should really do the DLC. Hey, don't miss out on the DLC. So guess what? A Hunter's Nightmare. That's right, we're getting the DLC territory. The Hunter's Nightmare, the DLC for Bloodborne. You wake up here after getting hit by another Amygdala. Wake up in the Hunter's Nightmare, a punishment for hunters of the old church. I love this area as all the enemies are just hunters and even more starved beasts. But what's so good is everyone is variable. This DLC also has so many more weapons to discover and collect, and it's a lot faster than Bloodborne. Now, I didn't use any new weapon, as I just kept with the Kirk hammer. If it works, it works. Test out the weapons, and they were a lot of fun. But after our bit of exploring, bit of parrying, shooting some people, we get to our first DLC boss, Ludwig. This man has been referenced the entire game, and seeing what he has become is horrifying. Now, I don't know if it's just me, but the first time fighting him felt way easier than next few. I heard a rumor that the first time you fight a boss it is easier, and I don't know if I believe that, but damn did it feel true for this boss. After dealing with his blood-starved beast form and figuring out how to dodge his jumps, his wild slashes by basically just hugging his right, he comes to his senses after fighting the Moonlight Greatsword. Ooh, the one weapon in every Souls game. You love to see it. But this phase becomes way harder. Faster, he has flying slashes and a beam attack that if you get caught in, you're dead unless you're a little lucky. But with a lot of skill and the right timing, Ludwig gets crushed to his second demise. That leads us on to the tower to show us the horrors of the healing church. These people are begging for a Lady Maria in pain and suffering. People, the horridness. And at the end, we see what I assume to be pre-celestial emissaries, the living failures. A group of test subjects turned into more monsters. Again, a bit unenjoyable, because guess what? It's another gang fight. And it has similar moves to Rom with these meteors, but this was just a prereq before my favorite boss in the DLC, Lady Maria. And oh, I love this fight. The bat, you see her vampirism come over, her blade starts to slash, but you know what? Everything is parryable. And I learned those parry timings easily. I see when you're pulling out those delayed attacks. What do you think this is, Elden Ring? 2, she covers her blade in blood, making her slashes way more far-reaching. So you really have to find the dodge timing, because parrying is very difficult, and 2.5 adds fire. But no matter, it's all parryable, or the same to dodge. And I take that health down. I did struggle with this fight, but I was smiling at all times, as it was so much fun just getting ready to viscal her chest wide open. Now, that leads us to the fishing village, where all the issues have arisen. The fishermen are turned, the pound is abandoned, snail creatures jump scare you, fishermen lost to elder beings, and at the end of it all, a creature. At the end. Mutilated, destroyed, but something comes out of it. A child. The Orphan of Cause. The technical true final boss. The fight. It almost looks like Cause is sporadic and random, jumping all over the place, and his weapon is like an organ. His insane rage is hard to tell what he's doing, but I learned how to dodge. Always dodge in, don't dodge back. You're gonna get hit if you do that, unless he does his ranged attacks. He can be parried, but it's so hard to get a good one off that you just end up dodging everything. And phase 2, just give up on parrying. This is probably the boss that killed me the most. Took me days to finish off. I find the best way to learn Cause's moves was not actually watch for the moves, but hear the moves. He yells, and those are quick tells to tell you to dodge. And I eventually, with a little luck, I beat Cause. And I will destroy his soul, ending these problems. Now, earlier there was a cleric beast just chilling, and I wondered if I got the item to activate this boss, and oh yeah, we're ready for this. Now, funny enough, people said this boss was the hardest boss in the game. Honestly, I didn't see that. It's just a cleric beast at the first phase, and in phase 2 it cripples itself. And what I found is, if you just tank the lava damage by going behind it, you get 3 to 4 hits while taking minimal damage.
You, at the foot of the great tree.
I can finally move on. There was something I did throughout the game that I haven't said about. There's the umbilical cords that you could get by finding secret areas, and eating these way to get the true final boss. And I did have to look up to do this, but I didn't want to miss anything out in Bloodborne. But now it's time for
Tonight, Gammon joins the hunt.
a hunter like us. But he does not want us to leave the dream, suffer the same fate as him. But I'm sorry, man. I gotta fight you for content. And maybe I shouldn't have. When he starts parrying my healing, I know something was wrong. He fights just like us, but better, faster, stronger. His gun can counter anything we do. And then he shows his bloodlust. And he starts to get even faster than he already was. But with some right times dodge and some more Uga than he can handle, send him down. Now, the god that trapped him here forever to be a servant comes for us. But since we did eat those umbilical cords, bathe this elder god, and now it's time for the final boss. Honestly, this boss felt unfinished. It attacks like Parl, and it has that one move where it takes all our health away, but it's just for show, as it doesn't move and you get a free hit, you can regain it all with blood. Honestly, what they should have done if you did find the secret boss, if you lost to the secret boss, you would still have Ammon. That would have made it easier. Right, the moon presence was just meh. It's a little disappointing that that's the ending. I would have rather honestly not known about the moon presence and just fought Ammon. I would have had a way better ending in my head to the game. It was easy, probably because I already beat in the DLC, and that probably made me a little over level. Ammon was way better. Finding the times to parry and not getting parried yourself, it's like a pleasurable stress for a duel of equals. Moon presence was just like, oh, I'm gonna Uga, and I'm gonna Dugga. But Bloodborne is as good as people say. It has been a journey through the horror. Every turn there's some new abomination. The combat is one of my favorites so far. Easily being able to switch through your weapon stance and shoot people in the face. And you really can get into it using other weapons, cannons, and everything else. The storytelling through the world. Seeing it start off in this gothic-inspired horror. Like things medieval would tell other people to scare each other. But then seeing the root cause of all this inhumanity. Something non-human. Seeing this world slowly turn into cosmic horrors the more and more you explore. And the more insight you gain. Damn, was this an incredible game. Now all I really have to say is, PlayStation, Miyazaki, Bloodborne 2,